everyone, welcome to the Soft Edit. Today we'll be talking about self-love, navigating choosing yourself, and navigating relationships after self-love. My guest today is Cece Ojany-Bekhor, who has done a lot of work on the subject, and I'm super excited to introduce her to all of you and for her to get an opportunity to introduce herself to all of you. Welcome, Cece.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear a little bit about yourself, your work, before we jump into it.
Cool. So I like to say to people that I help leaders solve their personal and professional challenges and help leaders achieve their fulfilling goals. So how I do that is through my one-on-one coaching program. I also do trainings in organizations, both online and face-to-face. In different countries around the world. I also run open workshops. So the closed workshops are the ones that are for specific organizations. So obviously an outsider can't come in. But I also run open workshops where any leader from anywhere can come and join, and we talk about a variety of different things. I work with different genders, people in different industries, and I'm also an author. So
that's great.
Thank you. I published my memoirs last year. It's called I'll Take Some Self-Love With That.
Ooh,
and
on topic.
Yes, on topic. And I basically share my journey from childhood to where I am now, and I include all the learnings, all the realizations, all the mistakes, all the wins, the losses. Across my life up until this point. So,
ooh, I love that. That's beautiful. And on that subject, because I'm very curious about this, as we think about what the journey towards self-love is, I think there's a big role that softness plays in that. So I'm curious to understand for you, like, what does softness mean? And then how do you think about it in the context of your personal journey through self-love, but also like what you've seen people go through in that journey of self-love.
And this is so necessary, so timely, because for too long softness has been frowned upon, even by women. This idea that you can only make it if you're tough all the time. You can only succeed and be taken seriously if you're tough. So I was very fortunate that early on in my career, I experienced a failure. So my first job, and I talk about this in the book, my first job working in corporate, I wasn't confirmed after probation. And I knew it wasn't the right environment for me, and it was one of the best things that happened to me because it was a much needed interruption to a particular trajectory. And I like to say to people, had that not happened, I would have probably ended up that woman who's hyper successful, but hyper unhappy. So that interruption worked well for me because it really got me thinking, look, Cece, what do you really want to do with your life? So I was living in Australia at the time. I'm born and raised in Kenya. But I went to study in Oz, in Melbourne, which is a really great city. And I came back to Kenya just to figure out, what do I want to do? I got a job. I was working in advertising, media strategy, planning, buying, that kind of thing. And when I went back to Australia, I knew, you know what? I really want to spend my time well, my time on earth well. So even with the jobs I got thereafter, I was just like, okay, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I really want to do? And then someone I cared about deeply passed away. My husband's grandpa, and my husband was my boyfriend at the time. But his grandparents had been so lovely to me, and I really appreciated that. You know, you're a foreigner in a country. I started off as an international student, but still living as an immigrant. I didn't have any family in Melbourne. So when my hubby's grandpa passed, it hit me hard, and I was surprised. I knew I was sad, and it was appropriate to be sad, but it really hit me hard. And it was something that knocked me about to make me ask the question again.
Yeah.
Look, Cece, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
It was then that I made a complete change in careers. I said to myself, I don't care what organization I work with. I just want a job that is meaningful. I get to wake up in the morning and be really, really proud of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I switched careers, and I got a job with a founder. So I worked in the organic food industry in Australia,
Oh, wow.
and that was the beginning of everything. I remember 3 months into that job realizing, oh my gosh, is this what it means to have headspace?
Yeah.
Is this what it means to have the time and energy to have a life outside of work? And it was during that job that I decided, you know what? I'm going to go study coaching, training, because I wanted to have meaningful conversations with people, kind of like what you've decided to do here with this podcast, right?
Yeah.
How can we have meaningful conversations with people? I wanted to have conversations about work, about life outside of work, but that word meaningful, it just wouldn't leave my mind.
Yeah.
So I got my accreditation while I was working, and then I took the leap and decided to start my coaching and training business, and that was 10 plus years ago.
Okay.
And that whole journey forced me into softness over the years. It doesn't just happen like this. But that was the start of me asking myself, what am I doing with my life exactly?
Yeah.
Looking around certain environments and asking, do I really want to be here? What am I doing with my time? And so for me, it's been a series of difficult times that have made me realize that authenticity, softness, I use the word yin energy, Y-I-N.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the yin and yang energy. We've all seen that symbol of the black and white fish in the circle. That's the representation of yin and yang.
Yeah.
And the yin is the black part. Yeah, the yang is the white part.
Yeah.
So I then sought out coaches who taught me about such things. And I loved that the coaches that I worked with were also vulnerable about their journeys, about their mistakes. And I've been coached by both men and women.
Okay.
But the women, too, understood the importance of softness.
Yeah.
And they shared their journeys as well. And so that's what made yin or softness become something that I'm keen to express, and I try to express in different ways in my work and in my personal life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's a great story and a very interesting journey that you kind of went through.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated because I feel like the journey towards softness or even self-love, and I guess to a degree, they're related and maybe in some instances interchangeable.
Yeah.
Always starts with this like shock of and this like disruption of like what you know.
Yeah.
Not feeling like it's serving you anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm always like fascinated by that. Like, how do you build right in the beginning when you feel that level of disruption that something is not serving you? Because usually the world around you is telling you that that's failure.
Yes.
That's wrong.
Yes. What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
You're not trying hard enough.
Exactly. That you need to stay this path,
Yeah.
and that's the only path. That's the only solution.
Yeah.
And venturing out on your own to be like, actually, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah.
Is so difficult and just requires this insane amount of bravery.
Yeah.
That we're not, I almost feel we're not conditioned to have as women.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to fear.
Yeah.
Because we are kind of sitting in this like, what does right look like?
Yeah.
What are the instructions? What are the directions?
Yeah.
This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like from your experience, but also from what you've seen, how do you start to shed that?
Yeah.
And when you're in it, like, how do you? I think panic is going to be a part of it, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure.
But how do you like move past the panic?
Yes.
Because the panic can take you back, you know, it can shrink you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to hear a little bit about that.
So here's the really interesting thing. Human beings, we're so stubborn.
We are.
Human beings often need something bad to happen, something hard to happen to redirect you. And I confess, that was my life for a while. We normally need something to happen to redirect us. So for me, it was that job not working out. It was, the passing of my hubby's grandpa. But also just the sitting around in certain offices going, what am I doing here? I feel like a fraud because I'm not being myself. And some of us have the stamina to keep that up, and some of us really don't. So what I say to myself and to the clients I work with is, you actually don't have to wait for something awful to happen. And when I say something awful, usually it's job loss, illness, or you're looking around at your success and wondering why you feel so empty. That one is really tough for a lot of people, because you were told if you do 1, 2, 3, you will end up here. And then you don't end up there. So something that often comes up in my women's workshops is this thing of, Cece, I did everything I was told, and here I am. I want to be in a relationship and I'm not. I want to be a mom and I'm not. I'm being stressed at work. And so then it becomes an internal conversation where you're going, okay, I was told to do this, but it's not working. And I'm so distressed and I'm so sad or frustrated or angry. The other thing that knocks people about is divorce. I was told to do this, and I am following the blueprint. I am following instructions. And it's not working. So now this is where humility comes in. And I say to people, humility will save your life. There's a reason why pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. In fact, some people say it's the most deadly of sins. Because your pride is the thing that's going to make you go, I can't tell anyone I'm having a hard time. I can't show anyone I'm having a hard time. As we say in Kiswahili, I have to vumilia. I have to stay the course. But that's your pride because it's not working. And we've all either experienced or seen that person who you can tell is struggling, but they're not admitting that they're struggling. It's the super impatient boss. It's the mom whose temper is on a hair trigger. It's the friend who just always seems to be angry. And some of us have been there. Some of us have observed it. And so this is where humility comes in, where you just go, it's not working, I need help. Having a good cry in the bathroom is always good. And then you reach out and ask for help. So what I did was I reached out to a really good friend of mine. Her name is Saf. We're still friends to this day. So I was in my 20s at the time, and I just said to Saf, I don't know, I need help. I need help. And it's funny because I said to Saf, I don't think it's a therapist I need. I need somebody to help me problem solve. So the gentleman she was dating at the time had a coach. And so she got that coach's number, a lady called Margaret. And that was, again, something that really accelerated my journey because through coaching, I realized there's another way. So your coach, and this is what I say to my clients as well, it's things like, now you have to find other people like you, other people who have crashed and burnt and are being humble and want a different way. Because that panic you talked about sets in when you're still surrounded by people doing the old thing. And so human beings we need to see and believe that there is another way. And how you do that is by now seeking out people who are on the new path. And they're there. They're there. But you have to ask for help. You have to ask for help.
It's true. It's true. Because when you're navigating something so shocking and disruptive, and when you still don't know kind of what's on the other side of it, it's very scary and it's very isolating.
Yeah.
Because to your point, your surroundings kind of just don't fit you anymore.
Yes.
And so there's this like sort of discomfort of like wearing shoes you've grown out of.
Yes.
But no reassurance around like what else or what new looks like. So I think getting help, getting support, leaning on people you can lean on, but also going to therapy or getting coaching is such a crucial part of that journey that I feel like a lot of people tend to ignore or tend to not necessarily recognize.
Yeah.
And I always find that at least for me, because I also went through this, that switch, I was kind of living life on level 1.
Yeah.
You know, where it was just all external and about the things happening around you.
Yeah.
And then when you get to this like break, it just gets richer.
Yeah.
And deeper.
Yeah.
And scary.
Yes.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like you feel like you've uncovered more levels to life.
Absolutely.
And I always tell my friend, it's like living on, like you were living on level 1 and now you're living on level 10.
Exactly.
And it's just a very, very different like, mindset and framework behind it.
And it's a paradox, right? The deeper you go, the higher you ascend. But you have to go deep. People think ascension is, I'm climbing. No, you have to go deep. You have to go within. And these are journeys, I say to people, these are journeys best not done alone. It's not normal, it's not natural to do it alone. And this idea of hyper-independence, once you realize that it comes from a place of trauma, you then start to understand why it's leading to so many issues. And here's another really tricky thing. The more success and financial wealth you have, the more blinded you can become to these things. It's quite fascinating. For example, I'm really appreciative of how Will Smith, the actor Will Smith, is telling anybody and everybody, look, you can get to the cliff top and realize, oh my God, this wasn't it. You appreciate your journey and your successes and all of this. But he's telling anyone and everyone, which I think is really great because so many people still follow celebrities, that you can get to the cliff top and realize this is not it.
That's true.
And then you, again, all roads are leading you towards looking within. You can try and avoid it, but you'll still have to come and look within. And what does look within mean? It means, what do I really want? Where do I want to go? What job do I want to do? I got a law degree because I thought, that sounds great and it's impressive. So let's go and get a law degree. I'm glad I got the law degree. But I halfway through, I'm like, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. So I finished the degree and very quickly changed course. Looking within can sound a bit vague and nebulous, but it's really just asking yourself, what do I really want to do? What do I want to spend my time doing? What sorts of people do I really want to hang out with? And it even comes down to, how do I want to dress? How do I want to dress? I get teased by a lot of people. They say, Cece, you can grow your hair because you're back in Kenya and now we can, you can manage long hair. And I say to them, I have short hair because I'm a swimmer. And it's very easy for me to, because I love swimming. It really does make my body just zing and feel really good. But also I like standing under the shower and just going and here's the thing, the minute that stops being important, I'll grow my hair. You know what I mean? So it's authenticity at all levels. Now the panic can also set in because everyone around you is going,
what are you doing?
Somebody talk to Luau. Cece's being weird. And you have to be willing. You have to be willing to upset people because they were getting something out of your old way of being. You have to be willing to upset people. You have to be willing. This was the one that really did it for me. To be willing to be misunderstood. That one used to really scare me. And then I realized but I'm the one left with my life.
Yeah.
When I contort myself or whoever, the followers, the friends, the this, the that, I'm the one left with my life. And again, it comes down to how resilient do you want to be? Because my pain threshold is very, I don't like to suffer.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Again, it just comes back to the humility and just being humble and saying, I'm stuck, I need help, I'm not happy, what do I do?
Yeah.
But that's when the good friends, the great spouses, and the teachers come in to help you on the journey.
And how because I think one of the big things that tends to be difficult to what we were saying earlier is when you're so used to following instructions your whole life, you're like, this is how my life is supposed to go. And then it doesn't. And you go through this sense of panic and you're trying to sort of wade through it. There's also this element of realizing to a degree that you've made mistakes, either in the choices you've made in the past not serving you, or the relationships you've entered into in the past that aren't actually right for you, that you entered maybe in this state of hyper-independence and in this like renewed state of self-love, softness just doesn't seem to fit anymore. I'm curious, like, how you think about how do you love yourself through those mistakes? How do you deal with those mistakes? And how do you move on from them? Because I think that also tends to trip people up, myself included.
Some of them really slap.
Yeah, they really do.
You're like,
they really do.
It's
hard.
Yeah. No, I totally hear what you're saying. I've spoken to so many people, friends and clients who have lost so much money, for example, who are going through a divorce, who are, some of the mistakes really slap. I remember, like I said, deciding to finish a law degree and not become a lawyer. I remember going through the whole, I don't know what my folks will say about this. But my parents gave me grace and they were like, we're just happy you finished your degree.
Oh, wow.
But also, I had a plan. I'm like, don't worry, I'm still job hunting, I'm this, I'm that. And that's how I ended up with that first job in consulting. And, it depends on your beliefs about life. And beliefs are everything. Because I say to people, your beliefs influence your attitude. Your attitude influences your behavior, and of course your behavior influences the results that you're going to get. So what do you believe about life? If you believe life is tidy and to be managed and controlled, you're going to make certain choices. And when you realize that's actually not what life is, you'll be slapped quite hard. So for me, I believe life is an adventure. And this is what I share with my clients. Life is an adventure. So if you think of all the grand superheroine movies you've watched, it's an adventure. They're just a regular person minding their business, and then something happens to challenge them, and then they make a choice. You're actually not forced. Because Bruce Wayne could have said, yep, I'm not doing this, moving to another city that's far more relaxing. You actually do make the choice. You make the choice whether to become the superheroine or to just sit back and not change. In which case you'll be forced in another rude way. So in all those super, like Marvel comics, this and that, the reason why those movies are so successful in the box office is not just because of the action. It's because they speak to something that's innate in all of us. We all want to gather friends. We all want the superhero in us to come out. We all want to defeat the baddies and what have you.
Ooh, I've never thought about it like that.
It's psychology. If you want to make a successful movie, get a psychologist to consult and you'll make a successful movie because it'll touch people's hearts. Right? So it's about how you view life and what you believe about life. So I believe life is an adventure. So the same way in those movies, the good, high-quality adventure movies people make mistakes. And they have a friend who has their back, or they have a colleague or acquaintance who has their back. Yeah, they make mistakes. They lose their temper. They have fallouts. Their friends betray them. That is there's a love interest. That is all. Isn't that what a life is? That's what a life is. So when you believe that life is an adventure, you start to realize, and part of adventure is making mistakes. So I'm not beating myself up about, oh, I wasted my parents' money going to law school. No. That was part of the adventure. I didn't know then what I knew now. I didn't waste all my time in the corporate world. No, I'm actually really glad I spent time in corporate before starting my own business because I learned so much there. And we say in coaching, never waste a good problem. So you can be going through a challenge, but what I recommend is even when you're in the challenge, what lessons are you getting from being in that challenge? What lessons are you getting? So for me, for example, another significant challenge I faced was when my husband and I lost our first pregnancy. And I've talked about this publicly. And I have coaches who they slap me with the truth. And I like that. I like being slapped with the truth so that I can quickly move forward. So there I am, so excited about being pregnant, lose the baby in very dramatic fashion, lose the pregnancy, and I'm not feeling good. And I remember, Luam, I was at home, and I just said, right, I've got to get out of the house. No, this is what happened. Because I'd taken the week off to do some stuff with my mom when that happened. So the universe designed it that I couldn't distract myself because I had taken the week off. So I'm sitting at home looking at my phone, and for some reason, this particular WhatsApp group, people are talking about their kids and how annoying their kids can be. And I was just like, wow, oof, okay. So I put the phone off and I say, right, I've got to get out of the house. So I go to a cafe in Loresho, and I sit down and I'm like, okay, this is nice. At least I've gotten out. 2 heavily pregnant women come and sit next to me. And I kind of shocked the waitress because I had made an order and I said, let me just take it away. And she's looking at me like, what's happening? I'm like, no, it's fine. Grabbed the stuff, went into the car, and I just cried. And I got home and I reached out again. It's that humility of, oof, I'm not doing well. Reached out to one of my former coaches. She talked me through it. We had a very deep conversation. And she says to me, Cece, here is something your brilliant mind is not going to help you solve. And that's exactly what I needed. That's what I needed to slow down. That's what I needed to stop drinking the Kool-Aid of my successful coaching practice. It changed how I live my life. It changed how I work with women and men. It made me more courageous. And I also decided I'm not going to be afraid about whether or not I can have children in the future. I'm not going to go there. So then I started thinking, okay, I need the sorts of, again, this is those allies. I'm gathering my allies around me. I need the sorts of doctors who are positive thinkers. I need a certain type of mindset around me. So again, I reached out for help. I called some of my girlfriends. Can you recommend an OBGYN that you personally like? One of my friends gave me the name of her OBGYN. And he was great. We started working with him. I got pregnant again naturally. But this guy was so, I'd say things like, and now I'm getting really detailed, but hey, let's get detailed. I'd say things like, oh, by the way, I have these 2 fibroids and, maybe you just need to check. And he looked at my scans and he just went, oh, actually, they're not going to interfere with the pregnancy, but we'll keep an eye on it. Just not buying into fear and this. I remember We went to Kampala for a friend's wedding. And I made an appointment with him to check, is it okay for me to go to Kampala? I hear there's a lot of malaria. And he's just like, you're going to be fine. Yeah. Enjoy the wedding if anything happens. Yeah. So you need those sorts of allies around you. And I'm so happy to say that our daughter is turning 8 in a week's time from today. Yeah. But that whole experience, again, it just, this thing of thinking I can control everything. Yeah. My career, my personal life, the person I fall in love with, it's all going to be very neat and tidy. Yeah. It's just not. Life is not like that. Life is an adventure. Yeah. And so this for me, and this is also why I have the confidence to talk about these things, because I'm living it. I'm living it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you see life as an adventure, you start realizing that I won't know everything. Yeah. And I don't need to know everything. And I'm going to have some wins. I'm going to have some successes. But as long as I'm moving forward, and moving forward isn't like this. Moving forward is like this. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's like that.
I think that's the most important thing a lot of people don't learn, is that it's just not, it's never a straight line. Yeah. It's always like these dips and these peaks. Yeah. But I love the way you think about that, because I don't think a lot of people think about life that way, that it's an adventure. Yeah. And that every part of it is contributing to to moving you forward. Yes. Whether it's a mistake, whether it's a loss, whether it's a disruption. Yeah. It's moving you forward in a way you just don't know yet. Yes. And I just love that reframing, because if we all thought about it more, about like what's ahead and where is this taking me, rather than what's behind and what have I lost, I think we would all just be living life on a different level.
Yeah, we absolutely would. And you start being more open. Like, what will this day bring? What will this new direction I'm moving in bring? Yeah. Right? Yeah. She's a girlfriend of mine now. She started off as a client, and she did something really lovely for her dad. She organized for her dad's birthday, she got some of her friends to come and also celebrate with him. Yeah. And when she was introducing me to him, she says, this is the person who always, you know how I always change jobs? Yeah. This is the lady who always gets me to change jobs. And I started laughing, and we had a good laugh. But my clients, especially the ones who've known me for a long time, many of them dip back in whenever they're going through a change. They're like, let me call Cece, let me call Cece. And I really love that, because I love not talking to someone for 2 years, hearing from them again and realizing, oh my God, you've grown, you've changed. What's the new thing we're doing? Yeah. So you become more open as well. But you also become humble. And you know, the true test of a friendship is not when we're having fun in Cape Town. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. The true test of a friendship is who's around and who's helping me and who's not judging me when I've fallen flat on my face. Yeah. That's the true test of a friendship. It's true. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
No, I agree completely.
When everything is tidy, no one gets a chance to show you that, hey, you're my person. We're together in this. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the other piece of it is that, like, it's messy for everybody.
Yeah.
Because that's even the other thing,
that person on social media looking really beautiful.
It looks like they have everything together, and everything is convenient and easy. Yeah, exactly. And I think that social media in and of itself, like that delusion it creates for you, it sort of feeds that panic, and you're like, oh no, I can't, I don't have this, I'm not there, whatever. Yeah. And I love this notion of like going to what your clients are doing, kind of moving on, living life, and then navigating a new challenge and knowing I seek help. Yes. I get support. Yes. Like, this is just another part of the life. Yes. Because I think another erroneous thing a lot of people think, especially when you're younger, is that my life will, at some point, I'll just have it figured out.
Yeah.
At some point, everything will be in place, right into the sunset, whatever it is. Like, and then it's just like easy street. I just need to get there, and then just like disappear.
Cruise control.
Exactly. And that's a lie. Like, life is this way, to your point. It is up and down. It is kind of a shift.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beautiful things that age and also self-love, like learning to love yourself, gives you is resilience.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah.
I remember this feeling.
Yeah.
I know where it's coming from, and I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm not kind of just like starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking behind to be like, why is this not falling into place?
I'm not that 16-year-old. I'm not that 25-year-old. I'm not that, 45-year-old. I have friends of different ages. And my older friends, I have one of my really good friends is 62. And she's also growing and learning.
Yeah.
But you remember, it's not a regret. You never regress. You're always
even though
growing.
It can feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you, for example, have this is the third job you're in where you end up not being happy.
Yeah.
You actually haven't gone backwards. Or if this is, the second relationship that's ending in a way you hadn't hoped for, you've actually not gone backwards. You're still ahead.
Yeah.
You've just dipped a little, but then you'll go up again. You'll dip a little, but you're always moving forward.
Yeah.
You're always moving forward. I don't like to bash that, that trajectory that we've alluded to, that you're born, work hard in school, get a fancy job, meet a nice human, get married, have some kids, buy the house, keep rising up the ranks, all these things. I don't bash that because that works for some people.
Yeah.
But even those people are also having their ups and downs. The challenge for everybody else is respecting that and realizing, oh, but that's not my path.
Yeah.
That's not my path.
That
this
piece
is my
of
path over here.
That piece of it. Because I think, especially if you grow up with someone or you have this peer group and like things start to change or shift, and where they go is different from where you're going. Having that sense of grounding on your path, on your journey, on what's happening with you is so crucial.
It's so crucial.
But it is also difficult,
It is difficult. And it's because of the losses. This is where the whole expression of take your L's, losses. It's because of your losses. I've spoken to so many people, and I too have experienced this, losing friends. Not because anyone has done anything wrong, but just because you're now moving in a different direction. And what do you do in a case like that? You remember the awesomeness of that friendship. You remember the wholeness of that friendship. Like, I really loved this, I loved that. Oh, remember that fun thing we did. Or remember that difficult time we had. Like, I lost one of my childhood friends.
Wow.
The friendship had to we went our separate directions. But I remember that friendship fondly, and I learned so much from that friendship. And even when I'm coaching people one-on-one, say, for example, you're going through a divorce, I've had such powerful conversations with people. So, and this is the power of coaching, where you just get the client to look at it differently, just a little bit differently. So asking a client, tell me some good things that came out of your marriage. Beyond the children, because that's the easy one. Tell me some good things that came out of your marriage. And once people start rattling off all the awesome stuff they experienced, all the awesome ways they grew, it's almost as though that inner anger, bitterness, tension, woe is me, it just dissolves. Because they go, actually, this person really helped me grow. This person was really good for me. We started this with this person. And there's one lady in particular I'm thinking of, for example, who has a really lovely, healthy co-parenting relationship with her ex.
Yeah.
And so this is it. You have to also believe that challenges are here for your benefit.
Yeah.
Challenges. One of the things I had to grieve was I had this fantasy, Luam, that I'm going to have 3 to 5 children.
Yeah.
I said that before I became a mom, before I met my husband. Just the fantasy of it all. Too much TV, too much Hollywood,
Influence.
Too Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I could have 4 kids. After our daughter was born, I blinked and we were 2 years in. I blinked and we were 4 years in. And I'm like, right, I need to have another baby. And I'm like, but I don't want to. No, I need to really think about this. I need to have another baby. She shouldn't be alone. She should. And I just said, oh my gosh, come back, Cece, come back. Authenticity. What do you really, really want?
Yeah.
And again, it's the calling the coaches, calling the therapists, talking to the friends. I read a lovely book called One and Only, written by a lady who is an only child. And she has chosen to have one child. And she's done copious amounts of research, both qualitative and quantitative, around the world, debunking all the really mean myths that are out there about only children.
Yeah.
They're selfish. They don't know how to share. They're serial killers. No. It was such a heartwarming, lovely book. And, she said things like, when people ask, oh, but what happens if something happens to you as the parents? And she says, the same thing that would happen if you had 4 kids.
Yeah.
You need to have your godparents. You need to have your affairs in order. You need to, oh, but, they need siblings to kind of bounce off. Well, no, because you also don't want to be the kind of lazy parent who just goes, the kids will hang out with each other. No, your kids are different. So if you have multiple kids, you still need to make sure they're each cultivating friendships outside the home.
Yeah.
There's the home, but then there's outside the home.
Yeah.
So sitting down with myself and going, yeah, but where was it written that I have to have multiple kids?
Yeah.
And then it comes back to, that trajectory we're all told to
go
down.
Exactly.
And then you start attracting people who can give you great advice. And so I met a lady who said, Cece, have the number of children you can afford, mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a great relationship. We're a threesome with our daughter. We're present parents, her and myself and her dad.
Yeah.
But it's something I had to grieve because the fantasy I had was, I'm going to have multiple kids. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. But even just looking after one child, I'm like, wow, this requires a lot.
Yeah.
And because life is an adventure, you never know. If I have another kid in the future, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, this is annoying. No.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm just owning my desires, no matter how much they trigger people.
Yeah.
No matter how unconventional they are. Is it really unconventional, or am I just being true to myself?
Yeah.
So that's that thing of being willing to trigger people, being willing to upset people, being willing for certain things to end.
Yeah.
But new things come in.
And I think that's fascinating because it's something a lot of people don't talk about. The grief of letting go of what you thought you were supposed to have or what you thought you wanted, but you actually didn't. Because you're systematized to think, oh, no, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to get. This is what you're supposed to have. Yeah. So even when you're making that active decision to choose yourself, there is still this shedding that needs to happen. And there are things you need to let go. To your point, there are people you need to let go of. Yeah. Which can be heartbreaking and difficult and isolating. Yeah. But it's important. Yeah. Because that's the only way to move forward. Yeah. And I'm curious, from your perspective, that shedding, in that period of shedding, how do you stay true to yourself and how do you stay rooted in your authenticity? Because it's tough. You're like struggling a little bit.
Yes, and it's so tempting to
revert.
To exactly to revert, to
backtrack,
sell yourself out. I call it the gap. I call it the gap, and it's really nice because a lot of people call coaches when they're in the gap. They're like, oh, there's the old me. I can't see the new me. I'm in this really uncomfortable place. And so it's very practical things like, okay, so you have the help, somebody you're talking to regularly, and talking about solutions, not just talking about how hard it is. So in coaching and I like the therapists that have a coaching approach. So I'll see a therapist like that, but then I'll also send clients to therapists like that. So that at the end of the session, you have some low-hanging fruit, practical actions that you can take. And that's really important to make that sense of progress. Just a little action here, a little action there. But here's the thing. Action also means I think what I need to do this week is rest. Action doesn't mean we're always running around doing stuff. Action also means making the decision to rest. There's a lady once who came for one of my open workshops, and she realized she was just about to start a new job, and it wasn't the right job for her. Because what she really wanted was flexible time. And this is before the pandemic years, so remote working wasn't as popular as it is now. So she called me, we started doing coaching together, and I helped her navigate how to tell the new company that, you know what, I don't think this was a good idea and I can't give you what you need. And they were grateful that she told them early enough. But again, it's that whole thing of, wow, what I need to do right now is rest. What I need to do right now is cocoon at home with a book. What I need to do right now is watch Game of Thrones all over again or Bridgerton. Instead of on a Saturday afternoon pressuring yourself to do something productive. Because life is an adventure. Sometimes you'll be doing productive stuff with others, by yourself. Other times you'll be vegging out. And that's part of a life. Vegging out, watching TV, either with friends, a spouse, alone, or with your kids. My husband and I and our daughter, it took us about a month. We started watching Kung Fu Panda from I think there's four or five of them. There's so many of them. And we loved it. We were like, are we watching Kung Fu Panda? But you see, that's a lovely memory. And we're not being productive. We are literally just sitting there with our popcorn, our snacks, bonding and watching this really cute series of movies, right? But that's a beautiful memory we have.
I love that.
So it's also about not wanting to be productive all the time. There is such a thing as, and again, going back to that yin-yang symbol, the yin is the black part, the dark part. So rest, the moon, the nighttime, softness. And that's not just for women, it's for all genders. There is a time and place for men to rest. To be playful with their children and not always be in teacher mode. And then the white part is the yang, which is the active part, the sun, the daytime, the doing. And so the reason why that symbol doesn't have a start or an end is because you flow between those two states. If you're being true to yourself, you will flow between those two states multiple times in a single day. Multiple times in a single day.
I love that.
So if, for example, you're going for a meeting and you're pitching something to an investor or a client, you'll have your yang energy because you've got your deck ready, you're ready to answer questions. But what happens when you get to the meeting and people are running late because it has started raining or something has happened.
Yeah.
In that moment, if you choose to be young and freak out and no, and I only have an hour to be here and all these sorts of things, you're going to mess yourself up. So the minute you hear, sorry, such and such and such is running late, you slip into your yin energy and you're receptive and you're waiting and you're maybe just going through your deck or you're relaxing with a cup of tea or coffee.
Yeah.
And then when those latecomers come, you can get back to your yang energy. So this is how throughout a single day you slip into yin and yang energy, because it is what is required.
Yeah.
They do that even in the animal kingdom. Even in the animal kingdom, the big cats are resting or hunting. But they're not hunting all the time, which is the mistake we humans have been told. You should be hunting all the time. You should be doing stuff.
Hustling all the time.
Be productive. What are you doing resting on the couch? No, even in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, and I think that whole, like, what are you doing? Like, why can't you rest or whatever is also exacerbated by social media and seeing what other people do. And there's this, like, there's this culture of glorifying that instead of sort of stepping away, to your point. Because I think exactly what you said with the yin and the yang and those parts of yourself, all of that is loving yourself.
Yeah.
Like choosing different. Do I want to kind of get myself into this energy where I'm like frustrated, aggravated, all of that? Or do I just sit here? Accept what's happening around me. And choose to kind of see it from a good light. And change my own perception. And regulate and care for myself.
Exactly.
Because I think that all is related to actually loving who you are. And appreciating who you are and living your life internally.
And you become much more pleasant to be around. You become more pleasant to be around.
And your life becomes more pleasant because you're choosing kind of to love and care for yourself and who you are. And I'm actually curious to get your perspective on this, because I've seen this in friends and family members and women I know and admire that choose this, like, self-love. They get on this self-love journey. They start choosing themselves. And it's scary and it's terrifying. But it also changes how they love other people.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious to understand from you, because everybody says this whole thing about, like, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. How does loving yourself actually change who you love or who you give your energy to? And how you love, exactly.
Well, it's interesting. Okay, so the saying that you can't give what you don't have, right? You can't give what you don't have. That has been 100% true for me. When I was hard on myself, I was hard on others. Hard on my husband, hard on, business partners, suppliers, all this. But when I started giving myself grace and I saw, wow, this feels really good, it becomes very jarring to be impatient with others and to be ungracious or graceless with others. So, we talked about those multiple layers. Some of these things apply in the material world, the physical world, and they apply metaphorically in our lives. If I don't have $100, I can't give you $100. If I have $5, I can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, or the full 5. The same applies with our emotions. For example, when other coaches come to me asking for a bit of mentorship or advice, some of the things I say to coaches and therapists as well who come to me for the business side of things is I say to them, I don't charge clients when they reschedule. So X is working for you. Now you think X should work for everybody.
Wow, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Like, you inadvertently become the preachy person, and you're like, when did I become this person? So just realizing that X works for me, but it doesn't work for me. So I have a whole range of clients and friends, for example. I have friends who've never gotten coaching and they never will. But I love that. I love that. We don't all have to have coaching, right? I have clients who are clear. They do not want to start a business. They don't want that headache. They like being employed. They're going to rise up the ranks. And that's beautiful. And then there are those people who are like, this is the last job I'm ever going to have. I'm done with employment. Get me out of here. But that's what diversity really, really is. It's diversity of opinions, diversity of beliefs, diversity of perspectives. That's what it really is.
I love that. And that notion of like, let people live the way that they're living instead of trying to drag them kind of on the journey. And also to what we were talking about, I don't think you can drag someone on that journey. I think they have to get there themselves. And it's okay to want to prioritize or to focus on relationships where you see that level of grace and self-love that you have in the other person. It's okay to leave the people that aren't there yet behind. And especially as women, I feel like we're constantly like, no. My friend calls it Bob the Builder. I can Bob the Builder.
I can Bob the Builder this situation.
I can build it. I can make it work, you know?
I can make it
just
work.
Like squishing and like putting yourself in.
It's an evolutionary thing though, right? Because tend and befriend, because there's also power in the group, right? There's power in the group.
Actually.
So we can also be kind to ourselves and remember that some of this stuff is evolutionary. Being alone for too long can really hurt you in many ways, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But there's, again, yin yang. There's a time to be alone. There's a time to be in groups. There's a time to forge on by yourself. There's a time to do it in a group. Right? So, we can also give ourselves that grace. It's nice to be with people. It's nice to bring people along. But this is where truly listening comes in handy. So the friend that doesn't want to start a business like you have, just truly listen. They're thriving in employment. Leave it be. The friend that doesn't want to have kids and you want to have kids, just, he's thriving. Leave him be.
And I think that concept of like trying to make somebody else your mini you or trying to bring somebody else on that journey is a good one, because I think realistically you can't. And to some degree you have to shed them, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's your partner. And that creates a lot of grief, but it's a necessary part of the self-love journey.
It's a necessary part of the journey, and this is why, again, in relationships and marriage, having a couples counselor or therapist, because if you want to be married for decades, you change with time, and that's normal and that's okay. But just get the help. Get the help. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't, but that's okay.
And maybe to wrap this conversation, I'd love to hear, like, what advice would you give someone who is struggling to choose themselves and struggling to get on this journey of self-love?
So first things first, phone a friend.
Ooh, yes.
Phone a trusted friend. It's very, very important to start with the low-hanging fruit. Because if I answered that by saying, get a coach, it takes a lot before you have the courage and, maybe even the finances and all that stuff. So phone a trusted friend. And what do I mean by trusted? It's just somebody who is for your well-being. Not somebody who wants you to be a certain way. Somebody who is for your well-being. Phone a friend. The same way I phoned Saf and I just said, this isn't working. And she said, let's talk.
I love that.
Phone beautiful. A friend, and from that conversation, you'll know what to do next. And from that next step, you'll know what to do next. Yeah. Take it step by step. Literally, just take it step by step. You don't need to know the whole road. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yes.
And to your point, and to what we're discussing, it's up and down. It's peaks and troughs.
But you're still moving forward.
But you're still moving forward. Oh, perfect way to wrap that. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a soft edit. Remember, you are the author and editor of your life, so make it your own. Thank you. Bye.